Hey, everybody, welcome to Matt Men, your source for all things professional wrestling. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by the Prince of Extreme, Rich Stambolian.
Ooh, I like that. That was a very complimentary nickname you gave me today. But extreme what?
The Prince of Extreme. What do you want to be the Prince of Extreme of?
Pies.
Prince of Extreme Pies?
Yeah, I want to have like a jalapeno blueberry pie. That sounds pretty extreme.
I'm into that. I'm into that. Guys, this is a show all about professional wrestling, sometimes about Italian cured meats, and a lot of Sopranos talk occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
We've been doing the show for almost 8 years and going strong, and the community is growing. It's absolutely great. Before we continue, I want to thank everybody for an amazing year. I mean, terrible scenario played out for all of us, but to see the community and hanging out with all of you guys, it's really been a instrumental piece for. I think I'm going to speak for Rich here. I think for both of us, to kind of motivate us to continue doing this and continue putting on a show with everything going on and all the bad and all the good. This has been great. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in throughout the year. We have some cool stuff again to do this year. This year we did a ton of watch-alongs. And really the reason for that is because of you guys. You guys have been funding these watch-alongs. We didn't do one this week. I kind of wanted to watch a show alone, which I'm kind of glad I did. I really enjoyed watching the pay-per-view all by myself, sitting in the dark like a lunatic, just watching NXT. But we're going to be doing a whole lot of watch-alongs, obviously. We have TLC coming up. We have Royal Rumble, and there you go. We're in WrestleMania season, so things heat up. So, guys, if you enjoy the show, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/MattMenPodcast. Go there, fund us as little as $1 per month. It goes a long way. Also, if you're watching live on YouTube, we record the show at least almost every single Thursday. Sometimes we do it on Saturday, depending on the schedule. But you could hit that super chat button and fund us as we do the show. And, of course, you guys fund the hell out of these bonus shows that we do, which is a tremendous thing. I absolutely love it. Guys, where do you want to begin, Rich? A lot of good wrestling this week. I know the big story. Do you want to summarize Wargames first really quickly?
You want to go through like the card? It was a quick night. You want to go through the card really quick, and then we'll kind of give them the thumbs up, thumbs downs, and then the what happens?
Yeah, let's do it. I think that's the best way to do it.
So this was I forgot the stat on this, but this was the 4th Wargames event.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a lot of fun. We didn't do a watch along.
Wait a minute. Last year before, the 3rd, I think.
Okay.
Maybe the 4th, like, one or the other.
I feel like this is like the 4th.
Okay.
I'm probably wrong. I'm wrong about, like time frames and stuff like that.
You're probably right. I'm probably wrong.
That's very sweet. I think you're right and I'm wrong. All right. So it was a quick event. We were tweeting along for the whole night. We got the show opens with the women's Wargames match, which went 35 minutes. That was a lot of fun. Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez and Toni Storm beat Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai with the help of Indy Hartwell.
Let's talk about this match a little, right?
35 minutes, great match, great spot. Great, big, awesome garbage can spot from Io Shirai.
Huge spot. I got to tell you, I was very impressed by this match. And it's interesting how when you're watching wrestling alone, like I wasn't reading what was happening on Twitter during the match. I tried something new. I kind of wanted to have my own opinion of it, and I didn't want it to be interfered. So I was literally sitting by myself. I made it as a joke, but I was watching by myself. And I thought that match was a freaking home run. I thought those girls, they worked so freaking hard at everything they did. And then you see the criticism. You're like, well, the timing was a little off. They did a little too much. I'm like, you know what, guys? I really don't care. I really absolutely loved the crap out of that match. Where did you fall as far as the match went? If you're talking a great match, an okay match, a good match, I don't want to do like the Meltzer scale on this, but what would you rate this?
I'd give it, if we're going to do 10, I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Yeah. Dude, I loved it. It was great. Yeah. A lot of spots.
Straight
went
up.
Long. It maybe a tiny bit of criticism. It went a little long.
Okay. It was a 35-minute match, but I think that's okay because these NXT events usually only have a handful of matches compared to the main roster. It was a very tight show overall, and I also think that every war games kind of sets the bar for the next one, and every single one of them, every time they do this event, it's been pretty fantastic. I really liked both teams, especially adding Raquel Gonzalez and Ember Moon in on this one, and
Yeah.
Shotzi, and Tony Storm. She's like the heels dominated. They did such a great job. You had also the garbage can spot. I think that was supposed to be after the Great Sasuke. Am I wrong about that?
That could have been. That's been a big Japanese hardcore match thing. Like DDT, you've seen that spot 1,000 times, but it could have been to the Great Sasuke. Yeah.
Phenomenal spot, and the women step it up big time. You ended up with like a big violent match. You also had your two giants on either side with Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley going at each other. Do you think Rhea Ripley is headed to the main roster at this point?
I don't know. Charlotte's coming back like now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what you do. I think the women's division in NXT is so solid. They could afford to lose one person, but there's a lot of matches that you kind of still want to see. Io has a plethora of opponents now, and I kind of want to see her go through everybody.
Yeah.
And then have everybody come up. I don't want to be cheated out of those matches between Io and her.
Right. Let's see, what else did we have? We had Tommaso Ciampa beating Timothy Thatcher. I enjoyed the match a lot. 16 minutes 46 seconds. I like Timothy Thatcher. If you watch this match in black and white, it would have fit in right after a Gorgeous George match, I think.
Dude, very old school, a lot of mat wrestling. But what a contrast, right? You went from that crazy hardcore cage war games match with the women, and then into like this traditional wrestling style, slow pace. Some may consider it a boring pace, but I got to tell you, that color spot unintentionally helped that match tremendously because you were like, oh my God, these guys are battling.
They're really kicking the crap out of each other. And I think these are two guys that don't mind a little violence when they're in the ring,
Yeah, they're pros. I mean, these guys, this is the style that they like.
I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you have the lack of live crowd, right? You had some crowd, but it seemed like even though the crowd for this was like kind of under WWE's control, and if they were in front of a bigger crowd, do you think this match would have gone as long as it did, especially with the chain wrestling and mat wrestling that they did? And I'm asking that because usually they don't, in the recent years of WWE, they don't really have a history of letting two mat wrestlers really go at it longer than 6 minutes.
No. That's actually I totally forgot about that, but I would say that probably it has something to do with it. I think it's more to do with the way NXT books and the flexibility NXT has when it comes to booking those kind of matches compared to main roster matches. But I mean, you're right. I don't think a mainstream WWE crowd would have appreciated that, and live audience crowd would have appreciated that. But being NXT, no matter, even in front of a live crowd, they would have popped for that match. I don't think they would have been bored from that. However, I was thinking interchangeably. You know who I could see in that match? Jon Moxley
versus
either one of them in that style match.
Absolutely.
I don't know why. When I watch it, I'm like, you know what? I feel like Moxley would have done great in this match.
It's kind of interesting how you brought up a really good point, and I'm going to agree with that. And you kind of just blew my mind a little bit because it's kind of interesting how you have, like, let's say Moxley, Timothy Thatcher, and Tommaso Ciampa. They look like three really street tough dudes that could put on a mat wrestling clinic. And I think that juxtaposition is very fascinating because let's say like 10 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, your dude who looked like that was like a hardcore guy. They weren't doing much mat wrestling.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Like jeans and like a bad attitude always means hardcore guy,
Dude, you know what's funny? Like Axel Rotten was a really good mat wrestler. Like he was always known to be a really decent mat wrestler, but again, you put on a couple jeans and a ripped t-shirt and there you go. Now you're a hardcore guy.
You're Sandman. You're Sandman.
Now
Forever.
you turn into a nasty boy.
Oh boy, I
They
never
give me
liked
the.
the Nasty Boys.
You know what I think of? What word
Hmm.
comes to mind when you think of the nasty boys? Right now, boom,
Boogers.
go.
Boogers.
Boogers. Boogers. Always. Always.
It's
Always,
boogers.
guys. It's
Mm.
always boogers. It was on the tip of my tongue. I set Rich up unknowingly that he would say boogers. The nasty boys, boogers, always.
You didn't even
I
finish
has
your
said
question.
paint.
I was like, boogers.
No, I didn't even have to. You knew. IS says paint, and
Uh-huh.
Large 23 says armpit.
That armpit's great. Armpit
is
boogers.
great, too.
Slop.
Paint.
They
Paint.
smell like
Like-
paint. Sure.
Like you know what they refer to the thing that goes up your nose, right? What it smells like.
Yeah.
It smells like paint. Are you talking like that? Or are you talking about like two really sloppy Irish contractors that are making a huge mess in your house that you hired to paint because you met them at the Knights of Columbus?
That I feel like you had an experience that led you to that comment right there.
Dude, I don't go to Home Depot to pick up my contractors. I go to the Knights of Columbus. You'll always find a couple drunks in the front saying, how much they quote you? 500? I'll do it for 2.
I'll do it for 2, baby.
6
Load me up.
firefighters come just get drunk in your house. That's how it works.
Just give me 2 days to work off this hangover I'm working on.
Yeah, so I thought it was a really good match. Really solid match. I would say it was a 4-star match.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And on our scale, 8.5 out of 10. 8.5.
Yeah. See, I have a big problem. Like the big gimmick matches, like War Games, for example. It's hard to kind of scale that. It really is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is it fun? Absolutely. Like, and
Yes.
that plays a big part in my rating of a match. The fun aspect plays a huge
Mhm.
part.
100%.
It doesn't have to be, how Dave does it. Like, we all have everything, but I would say that was definitely a 4-star match. I would say the women's match was also a 4-ish star match.
Absolutely. I think we used to have a banana scale, right?
We did. We had a banana scale.
So next, what would you give Dexter Loomis and Cameron Grimes on the banana scale in a strap match?
Okay, for it being a gimmicked match again, right?
Mhm.
I thought it was a very good match. I don't know. I would do a 3.5.
Okay.
3.25, 3.5. I thought it was I thought it was a really good match. You could tell though, dude. These guys are so high on Dexter Loomis.
Oh, they love that dude, big time.
They love him.
He-
They love this guy so much. I mean, he's it's a bizarre gimmick. He's like a sociopath essentially, right? I know that the name Dexter's a play on the TV show, but I think him and Cameron Grimes are such polar opposites of characters. I think if it was 2 other people in that match, I don't think it would have worked with either one of them. But I think the fact that Dexter Loomis is such a psychopath and Cameron Grimes is such a cartoonish character, it kind of worked. Dude, I watched WrestleMania 17 the other day just for the hell of it. I got to tell you, man, what a great pay-per-view that was.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the moment that gimmick battle royal was the best when Michael Hayes came out in all his glory with the big with the Confederate flag draping down, and he's doing the weird dance. I'm like, this character could not exist today. None of this could exist.
Never.
None of this would exist at this very moment.
No, never.
But
never.
nobody looks at Michael Hayes and says, you know what? You got to apologize for this. They're like, oh, it's just Michael Hayes.
At some point, they're probably gonna make him apologize, and then
You think so?
Then people are gonna be like, "Wait, who?
Who's Michael Hayes?
Who's that guy?" Because you got to think, like, we often have this conversation, like, just because you're wrestling famous doesn't make you like famous.
Nobody knows who Michael Hayes is. I'm just gonna tell you.
Right.
Nobody
like
knows.
Celebrity famous. Like everybody knows who Beyonce is. You know, she's like famous, or Johnny Depp, but you talk to a wrestling fan, you're like, oh, Michael P.S. Hayes, they'll be like, oh my God, I remember the Von Erichs and this and that. And, like that's wrestling famous.
Somebody asked me, and I get this all the time, right? Constantly, I should say. One of the girls that works with me said something. I was talking to somebody about wrestling in the office, and she, my buddy Mike, and she comes in, she's like, hey, that Dwayne Johnson looks like The Rock. Like, they look identical.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, Yes, they do. Do you know why? And she goes, what, are they brothers? I go, it's the same person. She's like, I never knew that. She's 22. Just want to put that out there.
You should have just said, yeah, they do look alike. And you should say Dwayne Johnson's actually Vin Diesel's brother.
Identical cousins.
Identical cousins. You know how that happens. So the Dexter Lumis Cameron Grimes match, it was what it was. They're very high on Dexter Lumis. I think, Dexter from the TV show, and I think Dr. Loomis from the Halloween franchise, because he's got he's smart and he's a villain and he's a stalker and he does the drawings and all that stuff. He also kind of looks like a Proud Boy, which I feel like is going to hurt him.
Oh, Dexter Lumis, yeah.
Yeah,
he has a little bit of a nationalist look going for him.
Yeah, but they love the dude, and the dude's a good worker. He's got a great look. He's like a little older than the rest of the roster. Do you think when I was watching the match, is he ready for the main roster?
Comedy act on the main roster.
I was just going to say that. Or is he going to end up wrestling R-Truth for the 24/7 championship and Drew Gulak?
Yeah. You could already see it. He's going to be a comedy gimmick where his whole thing is that he shows up and he does this. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he does this. Bad radio. I'm sorry.
Andrew's crawling under his desk right now. Yeah, that's good. For anybody, I encourage you to watch the live stream of this. It's pretty good. That's good. That's a good sight gag.
He does one of those.
Physical comedy today, man.
I'm into physical comedy today. That's my thing. On top of the horny gimmick that I'm going to start doing.
Oh, so horny.
Yeah, we invented a character that from now on we're just going to be horny dudes, like Babe Crazy. Yeah. But even if it's nothing, that's going to be the new gimmick. Do you know where I got that from?
Who?
Somebody sent me, and listen, guys, I never do this, but I get sent like 10 podcasts a week, and people are like, "Hey, check out my show. Do you want to come on?" And I don't know, I was bored, and I clicked on this because it looked terrible. It just looked really, really bad. And I clicked on it, and the whole show was totally distorted, right? From the beginning, and they had like a crazy intro with music, CM Punk's music, of course. They had Hulk Hogan's music following it. They had the whole thing. And the guy, it was two guys on one mic. So the whole show sounded like this. Just totally empty. And the whole thing was that they were horny for every girl in wrestling. Like someone to say something like Asuka, and they'll be like, Asuka. Oh, man. Ugh. Like one of those.
Oh, boy. Like that guy.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? What a great gimmick. What a great gimmick, because it's so bad. By the way, guys, your show stinks. I'm sorry.
Everybody knows the horny guy who'll watch wrestling and be like, "Oh my god, I'd love to eat a toilet seat."
Yeah, bad takes. Everything was a terrible take. They just kept talking about how it was great in the Attitude Era, that Sable was out there, and actually that was one of the things that they said. They're like, "We went from Sable and Sunny to Asuka and Becky Lynch."
Who am I supposed to jag off to?
Yeah, loved it.
How old were they? Were they older guys or?
I don't know. I
they are contemporaries.
No. I think there are contemporaries because they kept talking about the Attitude Era. So I would imagine they're anywhere from like 32 to 50.
Wow. Well, we are 17 and 19, respectively.
17 and 19. We're good boys. What else do we have on this card?
Johnny Gargano beat Damian Priest and Leon Ruff for the North American Championship. This went 17 minutes. I honestly thought Leon Ruff was going to retain, but then you had Austin Theory show up in the Scream gimmick amongst the other Scream murderers and reveal himself to save Johnny Gargano at the end of the match.
And great spot at the end. Austin Theory takes off the mask, looks at the camera, and goes, "It's me, Austin. It's been me all along." Perfect.
That was fun. I like that. Yeah. I like the self-referential, like they smell their own farts on that one.
Yep.
It's interesting. Johnny Gargano is now a 3-time North American champion.
Yeah, listen, I thought Leon Ruff looked really good in the match, like way better than he's been presented. And I was like, why couldn't they get this guy to be that before he won the title? Right? Like, you made him into a joke, so he'll never get over that aspect of it. But the guy is very talented, good wrestler. It could have been a fluke win and had done this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
Instead of making it seem like a big goof, like he's putting the title on, it keeps falling. What I did not like is Damian Priest not wanting to hit him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I that bothered me in the match. I understood it, but that kind of bothered me. But at the end, he was beating the crap out of him. So what difference did it make? You know?
You
Wow,
know
Tommaso
who?
Ciampa's coming out right now on my TV. This guy looks gnarly in that mask.
Yeah, he looks like Noob Saibot from Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat.
yeah, yeah.
So you know who I would have really enjoyed?
Hmm.
Um, uh, in the Leon Ruff role.
Who?
Do you remember Fred Yehai?
Oh yeah, Fred Yehi. Yeah. We saw him at
Yeah,
Evolve.
yeah. Like a staple of Evolve,
Yeah.
and doing the belt not staying on thing. I immediately was like, oh, he would have been perfect for that, you know. And
Yeah.
plus, he's small. Leon Ruff is like a regular sized guy,
Y-
you know. Like I feel like they put like an odd emphasis on him being like really thin, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And yeah.
Go ahead.
Next, we got Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish. A
By the way, last
united,
match. Last
yeah,
match.
last match, 45 minutes. Uh, they have not been broken up, which I'm very happy about. If they were on the main roster, they would have been broken up 6 ways to Sunday. They beat Team McAfee, Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Danny Burch, and Oney Lorcan. Very hard hitting, fun War Games match.
Very hard hitting, fun War Games match. Listen, everyone. It's become one of those match gimmicks that it's working. It works every time. We have yet to see one that didn't work, which is surprising at this rate. You know, WWE tends to ruin things by like the second or third time. Every time it's as good, if not better, which is fine. I thought Pat looked like $1,000,000. This guy, you guys have to applaud him. He's not a wrestler. And they're very good at protecting him. And that's something that doesn't really happen in the main WWE roster when you see a guy, an outsider, non-wrestler, come in. By the way, Pat McAfee has been training. He has his own ring. Like, this guy's been working hard at becoming a wrestler for years. It's a side project. It's a side hustle for him. He has a show on Barstool. He's doing great with that. This is another thing for him. He just loves the sport of it. So the dude looked great. The only criticism, I think the match went like 5 minutes too long. I think there were a lot of opportunities that they had that they could have ended the match, but I would do 4.5 stars for sure.
Absolutely. I think they knocked it out of the park, especially with the inexperience of Pat McAfee.
Yeah. The whole team, everybody looked good. Everybody looked great. I think Pete Dunne, this is the moment that he starts shining.
Oh, forget it. Yeah.
What do you think of svelte Pete Dunne?
Lean Pete Dunne is akin to Lean Hogan, where he's kind of unnatural to look at. He's fine.
Man,
he looks
that's so
amazing.
good.
He looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. But when you see the juxtaposition of like thick Pete Dunne versus lean Pete Dunne, you're like, oh, this is kind of weird. He looks like a bootleg action figure of himself.
Yeah. I can't. By the way, I can't. It's McAfee. I cannot. I have to tell you, it's become one of those things. It doesn't go in my brain. I can't retain it.
Tomato,
can't.
man. It's McAfee.
I cannot retain it.
You know, there are people out there that call you Andro.
Andro all the time. Andro. Hey, Andro. I thought it was a good match. I thought it was a great pay-per-view. Great Sunday pay-per-view. Quick, easy. Really enjoyed it. Do you want to go into Raw or do you want to skip it?
You know what?
There wasn't much.
It was okay.
There wasn't much.
Yeah, no, there was. I think I called it quits around 9:20.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, like the Fiend stuff I find kind of interesting. And as I was watching it, I found myself going off on a tangent where I was like, for me, what would be a dream match for the Fiend at WrestleMania? And it would be full blown Fiend versus like full blown Demon Finn Balor, like a real awesome program. You know, you get your spooky guys back. And then I was thinking, you know what I would have loved to see if it was possible?
What?
Muta in his prime versus the Fiend.
Oh man, can you imagine that? That'd be awesome.
It would be a lot of fun. But Raw was what it was. They opened. I was very pleasantly surprised that they opened with the Pat Patterson tribute again. Like, big hard hit to the company, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's cool that they're giving the guy as much respect as they are and as they rightly should. You know.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about that, right? Oh no, we did last week. Last Saturday we spoke about Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I highly recommend. There's a couple things that if you want to know more about Pat Patterson and just Dave Meltzer did a great piece with Garrett Gonzalez and Pat LaPrada on last Saturday on Observer, which I highly recommend you guys check it out. It was really good. Also, the tribute show between Bruce and Conrad, really fun show, very different, and Bruce went into the details of what a ribber he was and how like the things that Pat and him would do. Like these guys were best friends, Pat, Bruce, and Vince, really. And the things that they would do, just like insane. Like they Hogan, like once did you hear any of that, by the way? I know we're
I
going
did
off on the
not.
tangent, but I want to kind of go
No,
into
no,
this.
no.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
they told these stories on like how there was this old man that he was a shoe shiner. He would come and shine everybody's shoes in the office. A lot of offices have that. And Pat would steal the shine box. And he would put it in random places. And one day he forgot, and this poor man was crying because people's shoes were missing. Another story is he pretended to be one of the landscapers at Vince's house. And he kept blowing like dirt into Vince's face while he was sitting on his patio, and Vince was getting even more and more angry, and Vince starts screaming, "Amigo, stop, amigo!" And he goes up to him and he looks at him. He goes, "Vince, I just wanted to blow you," and then he just blows all the dust to his face.
Oh my God!
Great story. Absolutely great. But the Hogan contract moment is the best. So Hogan was on the outs with Vince. They're having all these problems. Hogan keeps telling him, like, your office doesn't respect me. They're booking me crappy, blah, blah, blah. And Pat and Bruce took the Hogan buddy that I have. They tied a noose around him, and they dropped him in front of Vince's office.
Oh, my God.
And Hogan blew a freaking gasket.
I'm sure he did.
Brother, no! Yeah, and Vince, I mean, obviously, Vince, he was like, "You see what I mean, brother? You see what I mean?" I thought it was a really good tribute show. I highly recommend you guys check that out. Really,
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, that was a great story. Great job by Conrad on that, because he's the best in this business right now for that.
We gotta get him back on.
Yeah, we need to get Con on. So let's talk about AEW.
Wait, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, go.
You gotta give me an honest answer. When was the last time you watched Impact Wrestling before this past Tuesday?
Probably a couple of weeks ago. I mean,
for real?
Yeah. Like I watch him like a couple of weeks behind, and I'll like stock up on a couple episodes.
Good for you. You're a better fan than I am.
You know what it is? Aesthetically, I like how it looks.
Okay,
and that goes a long way for me. The aesthetic of that show. Even if the show is not that great, which I think it's a pretty decent show. It's fine. There's nothing wrong. It's not, guys, it's not the same Impact. I keep telling this to people and they don't believe me. It's not. It's a totally different company, totally different booking. It's nothing of what you imagine with Impact Wrestling. And I think the name kind of affects it in that way. But I thought I think it's a decent show. It's very carny, which I like. Very inside baseball. They have a lot of those moments, which kind of speak. It's the wrestling fans' wrestling show. It's like deep. It's a B-side wrestling product.
It's very simple. It's a very simple show. You know what you're gonna get. I like the crew. I like the roster that they have. Some of it's a little confusing, but it was fun. I usually I'll watch the clips on YouTube, or I'll look at the results just to keep up to date.
Yeah.
Tuesday was the first time I watched Impact in ages. I had like an Obi-Wan Kenobi moment of like, oh, Impact Wrestling, that's a name I haven't heard in a very long time. And I watched it on Twitch, right? I streamed it on Twitch. I heard the Twitch numbers did bonzo bananas.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. I think it's 7 times more than usual.
Wow.
No, more than that. Cool. I'm sorry, 700 times. Normally there's like 80 people. 80 people, wow. 90 people, or 100 people watching. They have 52,000 people watching Kenny Omega.
Really cool. And of course, and it was funny watching the chat room in the Twitch stream full of fans who I feel like haven't watched wrestling, because, they're going to save it for the end. They're going to save it for the end. And it was...
Where's Kenny? Where's Kenny?
a billion complaints about where's Kenny. Like, yeah, they're not going to give you. They're going to give you everything else, and then keep talking about Kenny Omega. The Tony Khan commercial was hysterical.
Yeah, a lot of people. I'm like, people are like, oh, you see Tony Khan, he's such an arrogant asshole. I'm like, you do realize that he's playing the heel because he's invaded another territory, right? He has to be the heel. He can't be the babyface in this. The fact that he said he could buy it, very, very old school heel Vince. You know what it was? You know what role he played? And a lot of people don't realize this. The role he was playing was Vince McMahon, 1993, in Memphis, in USWA.
Ooh, that's good.
So this is a real deep dive. There you go. John in our chat room. He played Vince's role when he was in USWA. No, a lot of people don't know this, and I feel like it has to do with the fact that WWE has not dived into that history, right?
Yeah.
They haven't done a deep dive of that early 90s bizarroness because a lot of it is tainted by the steroid trial. A lot of it is tainted by steroids in pro wrestling. A lot of it is tainted by the drop in business. Hogan, Slim. It's not a great era between 1992 and 1994. So we don't really see a deep dive in this, but they did a weird crossover with USWA where Vince McMahon was sending his WWE goons to beat up on Jerry Lawler, which Jerry Lawler was a total babyface in Memphis and a total heel on WWE programming in 93, 94.
Yeah.
Vince would go down and send his guys after him. So one would have been Macho Man Randy Savage, right? And Randy was the heel in this program. Then it became Tatanka, the Native American Tatanka. And there's a great clip of, I think Tatanka won the USWA title. I forgot who won it. Vince is standing there with his baby blue, powder blue sport coat and suit. And he opens up the suit and he has the AWA World Heavyweight Championship wrapped around him. Because that is when the AWA title ended up becoming the USWA title because of the weird merger with Dallas, with WCCW. They all kind of merged into one because everything fell. The title ended up becoming a USWA title, strangely. Really cool stuff, really deep dive, but that's exactly what Tony Khan was playing, was the asshole promoter from another territory that's bigger than you.
Right.
Really cool.
I did like the joke he made of maybe I'll buy Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, because isn't that the joke that Triple H said about AEW?
I think he did.
He said,
right?
he goes, the old man will buy that pissant company of yours just to fire you again.
Boy.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I like the Kenny bit with Don Callis. I think that union is pretty fantastic. How do you feel about it? I feel like wrestling fans are fickle to begin with, and I think there's a lot of 50-50 going on where they're like, oh, I love that Kenny has the title, but why is it this way? How do you feel about how he won, and how do you feel about him teaming with Don Callis and kind of acting as like his mouthpiece in a little bit of a regard?
I really like it. I'm not against it. It's early. I want to see how the run goes, I kind of want to see that run, but I do like that it's different. And you got to look at it this way, right? Chris Jericho's run as world champion was very different. You got Dean Ambrose's run as world champion, very different from the other one. John Moxley, I'm sorry. I got Ambrose on my mind. And then
you're the horny guy, that's why.
I'm the horny guy. And then you got Kenny Omega playing a whole different role. And now he's going to be known as the Collector. So
I love it.
They're alluding to wasn't the Collector, what's his name? Austin Aries?
Was that a thing with him when he
had all the title belts?
When he went back to Impact?
Yeah, and he had like every single title belt.
Okay.
So I think they're going to run this world title Collector gimmick. He already has the AAA mega title, right? He has the AEW title. Let's put the Impact title on him.
Absolutely.
Why not put the MLW title on him?
100%.
Right? And then the big moment is he wants the title in Japan. He is the collector. That is the title he wants back. And maybe he loses that match, and then it causes a whole, a collapse in his run. You could do a lot with
Uh,
this. What do you think?
I love it. I think the collector thing is awesome. I told my wife hates me talking about wrestling, but I was like, yo, there was a cool bit with. She was like, how was the Kenny thing? Because she was like, you're watching Impact, like she was shocked. And I was like, oh, he did this kind of neat promo where he talks about collecting comics and he could never get Action Comics #1. And the AEW title is his Action Comics #1. And then she goes, real cool, coming from nerd numero uno over here. And I was like, all right, fine. Maybe that's not for you. And then I kind of started to think about how a lot of people don't like Kenny's promo style. And we have some people in the chat room who are kind of vibing with that, like, how do you
Yeah.
feel about his promo? I like it. I think it's very like video gamey. What about you, Andrew?
I thought it was a lot better on Wednesday than I expected. I think the video game promo thing worked in Japan. I don't think it really crosses over here as well.
Mhm.
Because it's a much larger audience. You're kind of targeting, but I do like he did a good job with this. I thought his promo on Tuesday was good. I thought Wednesday's promo was way better. I think Callis is a good addition to him. I think Don Callis is great. I think he's phenomenal. Interesting to see how it would have played out if he was the higher power, huh?
Really?
Right? He was supposed to. He was one of the names.
How do you think that would have landed?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he was as good then as he is now, but this is a guy that was out of the wrestling business for quite a few years, which is amazing. And now he's the vice president of Impact Wrestling. He's on TV. And a lot of this has everything to do with the fact that he ended up doing commentary for Japan, right? Isn't that how it started?
Yes. Like the wheels were turning. Also, Canada guy, him, Jericho, and Kenny have established like this kind of like
Canadian
triangle of a
alliance.
friendship.
Yeah.
You know,
But
and
I don't think the story that he's known Kenny since he was 10 is true. I think
it is.
but I see that's the thing. I remember hearing an interview where he said that he knew his uncle. He trained with Kenny's uncle, but he never knew Kenny. He didn't even know that was his uncle until Jericho put it together. This was a couple years ago. So maybe he did know him as like a kid that would come around, but
right.
they didn't have this relationship until Jericho kind of pieced the thing together. I could be wrong. I kind of remember this.
I think there was a Kenny interview where he was like, "Oh yeah, I've known him since I was like 15." But again, that could mean anything,
Yeah,
So
that
like,
can
I
mean
like
anything.
I like that they're playing on that kind of like history there. It works. Wrestling does a lot of retconning, which I'm okay with. Like
Yeah.
Callis saying like, "We started AEW. This is because of us," and I'm like, that's pretty fascinating because they're really drawing the ire of fans when you have a Paul Heyman or Don Callis or like a corporate suit talking in that regard, telling the fans what they want, quote with air quotes.
Yeah.
That drives people completely crazy, and I think it adds to the heelness of the character. How long do you see Kenny hold his belt?
I think it's going to be at least, I mean, he's going to run through February for sure.
6 years.
No, I mean, it can't be a short. I like the fact that they're not short runs. I would have him hold it for a while, build this, build it, build it. But who's his opponent? Who's his next opponent?
That's the thing, man, because like he's kind of they set him up to be like the best bout machine at this point, right? That
Yeah.
he's gonna be the unbeatable champion collecting the belts. Um, is there a chance for for them to wrap up that Hangman story and have Hangman do it, or do you think it's gonna be like kind of interpromotional stuff where everybody's going against Kenny, Nick Aldis? I think that would be fun. Kenny getting the NWA title.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that. Have him go in for the NWA title.
Because they're doing like it's interesting how like you're getting like NWA stuff, now you're getting Impact stuff. There's I don't want to say invasion, but I think you're gonna get the guest spots here and there, and I do think Aldis may play a part in this. Like he's because he keeps saying he's the real world champion, kind of like the Ric Flair stuff, 10
Yeah.
pounds of gold and all
Yeah.
that. Like,
Because they've
Kenny is
said it multiple times, the real world champion.
right, and Kenny's never held that NWA title, right? So I think
Yeah.
that would be fun.
Yeah, listen, I see him holding the Impact title for sure. I see him. They're gonna do some cool stuff with it.
Mhm.
Just where it goes, we'll see. I think. By the way, I got to tell you, this show was packed. This AEW
Mhm.
show, sort of like Crash TV, a little Crash TV
Yeah.
ish. The last 2 weeks, there's so many moving parts happening.
Mhm.
The last 2 weeks, and I think this is fine, and people need to remember when you do really packed shows like this, it's only for the short term. It doesn't help your long term booking.
Right, right.
Listen, it's a bizarre criticism, but it's a criticism to look and say, okay, we have to space things out. I think the last 2 weeks, I understand their philosophy as to why doing it because they had so much coming out of last week's show, right? Kenny Omega won the title. He was on Impact. Sting debuted. You had all these moving parts, and now you're at Impact. You know what? Doing this 2 weeks out, fine. I don't know next week's TV. I don't know what it's going to be, but they have that New Year's Eve show, whatever they're calling it on that Wednesday. Then they have the big show on the 6th again. They're doing a lot of big shows every couple of weeks. So just remember that when you're watching this, that when you see a product doing so much in such short time, it's gonna pop the numbers, it's gonna create the buzz, but long term wise, like 3 months out, you're hurting yourself. So too early. Listen, I'm not criticizing. I thought it was a very good show. Just they're gonna have to slow the pace. They're gonna have to. You can't continue doing it that way.
I think they're really going forward with a nice build. You're setting the Jam Pack show is always set up for some sort of payoff, and we got that last night.
We got Snoop Dogg coming in too.
Which is I feel like when they announced that, I was like, oh, he doesn't even know where he is because
By the way, WWE's very upset.
I'm sure they are, dude. Like he was with them forever, and then now he's with AEW. I think Shaq too, right? Shaq kind of teased like some kind of WWE thing. But AEW is clearly the cool place to be. The other day, I read a little behind the scenes stuff on the Sting signing, and it was very fascinating stuff that I had no idea about. That Tony Khan has known Sting for many years because Sting's son had a tryout with the Jaguars.
Really?
Yeah, so
I
like
did not know that.
so he's already had a pre-established relationship with Sting and apparently courted him over the course of who knows how long. And then as soon as that Legends deal was up and they pulled his merch in WWE, Tony Khan put together this deal that he told, according to what I read, he signed him to a deal and then told the Bucks, Kenny and Cody, and apparently it was met with like an amazing internal reaction of the company. Like, holy shit, like what a get, you know?
So I got well. Let's go into Sting. Cody comes out. Cody looks like $1 million. Forget about what you think of his. There are a lot of people that are not into him. This dude looks like $1 million. He looks like a world champion level pro wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out with Arn and Tony Schiavone's in the ring, and here comes Sting. Sting and Tony have this moment. Tony goes, "It's Sting." He does this whole thing. Can we have the Yeti come in so he could do it's the Yeti?
Oh my god!
I hope they
so
do
good.
that. So I mean, listen, as a mid to late 30s, both of us, Rich and I, it's
Late
really
30s, dude.
cool.
I'm not. I'm done. I'm not mid 30s anymore.
You're late 30s, my friend. Late 30s.
I've accepted it.
For us, I found it really nostalgic and cool, and that's exactly who they're targeting. It's not us, guys. It's not the viewers in this group right now. It's not the viewers sitting on Twitter. You know who it is? That 40-something-year-old that really freaking loved WCW and hasn't watched wrestling in a long time. The guys that are kind of in and out of wrestling. It's that because WWE's been crushing them in that 50-plus demo.
Yeah.
And listen, I know that the demo that's important is 18 to 34, 18 to 24, 34 to whatever, 40. AEW is doing great with that, except in the plus 50, which NXT does a killer number in, and all WWE does.
Mhm.
They really need to pop that number. And how do you do it? This is the great way of doing it. I want to see their 50 plus numbers this week to see what
Yeah.
happens. Knowing that Sting is on it, I'm curious if it makes a difference. If not, you're going to get a couple cool things out of this. Number one, you're going to get a Cody and Sting match. This is for Cody, this match.
Absolutely.
Sting was his favorite wrestler as a kid. He has such a history with his dad. He has a history with Flair. Cody kind of is Cody's Flair-ish, I guess.
Mhm.
Right? He would be that character. He's a natural heel. Man, you know what? I'll see you around, kid. Cody's reaction, the Darby Allin stuff. I know. Listen, it's a stretch to compare Darby to Sting.
Right.
It's a real stretch, but the Cody thing is interesting to me. Now, if they do this once in a while, if we get 3 matches out of him, that is perfect. I don't want to see more than that. I don't want this to become a regular thing. I do want to see him around and playing a role and stuff. That's okay. That's cool. But there's to have this 1-off, 2-off, once a year, twice a year thing with Sting. I think that's a really cool thing to see. It's not taken away from anybody. It's not taken away from telling a story. Cody obviously doesn't want to be in a world title picture. And this is a great way for him to have a top program with somebody that creates buzz, creates synergy with different demos, and creates the eyeballs on your product. This is a great way of doing it.
You have, not only do you have that, but if you have that limited, I'm fine with him being on TV every week, right? Because that's what they said. They said he's a regular character. He's got a full-time contract. Great. Have him come out. That promo he cut yesterday was more than he said in those couple of years he was with WWE, right?
Yeah.
Him being there is cool. You already know that they're gonna take their time with it. As opposed to like we talked about this last week, the stunt casting that WWE does on occasion, where they'll bring a guy in for a quote unquote cup of coffee, and then he'll do something major, and then it's back to status quo.
Yeah.
The Sting thing I find very fascinating because they're playing up the mystery aspect. They gave him like a 5-minute segment yesterday, which was great. And touching on the lines of like guys who are a little bit older who love it. Like, we're on a group chat with one of our producers, MG Geek, and this dude has had a rockin' hard on since Sting came
big
back.
Time. Big, huge hard on.
Like, it's like all about, and it's great. It's awesome. It's nice seeing fans get like really excited that this guy's back, lifelong fans who have followed him, and it's like a homecoming. I think you and I are at that age group where we know the history, but we didn't really see it as it happened.
Yeah. What? Which part?
As like the early Sting stuff, like being a kid or like being a teenager, and then seeing like Surfer Sting, and then we were teenagers when he became like Crow Sting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we were like, and plus like growing up on the East Coast, I maybe caught like Surfer Sting as a child once or twice. Didn't really know who he was.
Yeah.
Right.
So, see, I watched it. My grandmother loved WCW. My grandmother would rarely watch WWF. She would always watch WCW. And because, I guess because it was whatever was on prior to Saturday nights, that she would watch that or post. I don't remember, but she loved WCW. I remember watching it on this tiny little TV, color TV, in her I guess living room, and we would just watch weirdo WCW, and all I would think of was, my God, these guys look like abusive dads, like mean fathers.
Oh yeah,
everybody looked like a mean father.
They all look like adults, and I was like, when you're 8 years old, you don't want to watch like adult stuff. You want to watch Hogan and Macho Man.
Hogan, Macho, Warrior, Road Warrior, Honky. Like, everything was a cartoon. Ronnie Garvin, terrible. I don't want to ever see Ronnie. Dude, Arn Anderson still looks like an abusive father. Just terrifying look.
Like now, I like the Arn, the little Arn thing he did yesterday. You
That
know?
was good. Yeah, he's like, I'm out of here. So
Mhm.
I thought that was good. The uh the inner circle stuff is interesting. By the way, Santana wasn't there. If you
Mm.
noticed, he's dealing with a personal issue. I have no idea what it is. I've been asked like 10 times. I don't believe he has COVID. I don't think it was a COVID related. I think he's dealing with something personal going on. But he's going to be back on TV next week. So
That's
that's
fun.
that.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the giant inner circle and their tenuous relationship with each other? And is Sammy turning face?
Sammy looks to be. I think it's interesting what they're doing with him. Because he's going to be a huge baby face when he's out of there.
100%.
Yeah. He's going to be a huge baby face. Uh, I don't know when the time would be, but he has a long career, this guy. Very long career.
Oh, very much so. A lot of the young guys on this roster, if they stay healthy,
Yeah.
the sky's the limit, right? You're creating
Yeah.
stars. MJF too. MJF, like, forget it. Like this, a lot of the inner circle stuff, I feel like is they're really setting up
Yeah.
MJF to knock it out of the park.
By the way, Santana's stepfather passed away. That's the reason. So our thoughts
That's
are
a
with
shame.
him. Yeah. Where do you want to go next? Let's talk about Goldberg.
No, why?
Let's talk about Goldberg. If you watch The Bump,
Mhm.
oh, by the way, talking about The Bump, Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins had their kid. Congratulations
Yeah.
to them.
Oosh.
Somebody asked me, they're like, how come you guys didn't post it? I'm like, I don't like posting stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
what am I going to do?
everywhere.
I don't want to post somebody's baby photo. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
it's also everywher, you
it
know.
is
So
also
like
everywhere.
when you get like it's really secondary. It's secondary and third tertiary. Is that the
I also
appropriate
feel
word?
that it's invasive. It's very invasive.
Yes.
Like, I'll post that you broke your leg. I don't want to post that you just gave birth to a kid. You know, like, I feel like it's very invasive. And then now everybody online is like, oh, does this mean she comes back for Royal Rumble? I go, do you
Oh
know what
boy.
it's like to have a child? Because I do. I've birthed, personally,
Like Junior.
myself, like Junior. I've birthed multiple children weekly. It is not an easy task.
You gotta
Becky
go
Lynch is
to
not
the
going to be
doctor about
there.
it.
Yeah, I know. It's a big problem. Everybody tells me to do that. I don't know when she will come back. I don't know if she wants to come back. A lot of your priorities change. Everything changes. Everybody's now saying like, well, she'll be ready for Mania. I'm like, Mania is 6 months away.
Let her chill out.
Let her enjoy her time with her kid. The last thing
Yeah.
on her mind right now is to get back into ring shape and wrestle at WrestleMania. It's not, guys. She'll be back. I don't know what capacity. I don't know how often you're going to use her, but she's in a position where she doesn't have to be there all the time. She became a megastar, so having her for these matches every now and then, great. Seth Rollins is also taking time off, obviously. In the next, I guess, couple months, he'll be off TV for a little bit.
Who are these people? According to Andrew, who are these people who are asking for Becky's return like immediately?
Oh my God, you see it all the time on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is she gonna come back yet? So we'll see what happens with that. Let's go into we'll go into Goldberg, and I want to talk about NXT a little bit because a lot of cool stuff is happening on NXT. They're getting their fire again. You know what? Let's talk about NXT first, and then we'll go into Goldberg because that'll go into a whole Rock conversation here.
Sure.
I thought NXT last night was a really good show. I
Yes.
watched most of it. I watched it quickly, and right now I'm rewatching it, kind of piece everything together. Finn Balor is excellent when he is so confident.
Absolutely.
Listen, and I don't mean this in a bad way, right? And I don't want this to come off like I'm saying he's not mainstream main roster ready, but in NXT, he's a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the physical ability of these guys. I'm saying as a product, it's a much smaller product, and he feels so much larger in NXT. His promos are perfect. His character is perfect, so confident. I thought that opening, they did a good job at presenting all the different opponents, right? Because you got Kyle O'Reilly that broke Finn's jaw, and he's in the contendership.
Yeah.
You had Pete Dunne come out and pretty much say, like, I want a shot at you. And then you have Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross, Scarlett comes out and taunts Balor. And then we saw Karrion show up.
Yeah.
And then we saw Karrion show up and take out
Damian Priest.
Damian. I keep calling him Punishment Martinez, but can I tell you a false memory that I injected in my brain?
Is this a coma memory?
It could be. Listen, that could be reality, and this is still my weird my weird microdose gone bad coma. I could have swore he shaved his head.
Who? Damian Priest?
I could have sworn, Rich. The God's honest truth on my kids. I could have sworn to you that he had a shaved head prior to Sunday's pay-per-view.
You know why?
Why?
Because you were doing that hair stuff for like 3 days straight.
Dude, it's possible. It's a potato memory, dude. You know what, guys? No, it wasn't the microdose that Lauren gave me. Lauren Camaletti in my office. It's not that. It is the potato. The potato is, this is all a potato fog. Whatever was in that potato, none of this is real. I got good news for you. All the stuff that's happened in 2020 never happened. You guys are all part of this weird coma-induced dream that I'm in.
Are we sucked into your potato frenzy?
Oh, yeah, you're in my potato frenzy. It's like, what was the movie where like it was a dream within a dream within a dream? Inception? Inception. Interception. He just threw a football and it became a show. I think it's one of those because I could have sworn to you that this effing guy shaved his head. Now, I've watched NXT all these weeks. I've watched the clips online. But for some odd reason, on Sunday, when I watched, I said, holy crap, he has hair.
You were blown away. You were like, potato.
I woke up for like a slight second, and I saw myself in the hospital, and I just saw my wife's face, and like, he's awake, and I just closed my eyes again.
I've been seeing a lot of potato-looking people lately, too, so maybe you're onto something.
Is this like They Live? Where you wear like special every now and then you wear the special glasses instead of like zombie aliens, they're just potato people?
Oh, that'd be great.
No, you guys did not eat a potato. You guys don't exist. Canadian Mountain Man, Bachelor 3000, Iaz right now, Bob, MG Geek, none of you guys exist in this realm of this reality that we're having a conversation with. By the way, 2021, we're still going with our goals for 2021. Do you know what that goal is? Do you know who becomes my friend?
David Arquette.
David Arquette, listen to me.
Let's make this happen.
You will be my friend
God.
this year. I'm telling you right now, 2021, we're going to make it happen. We're going to become friends, and you're going to be sitting on this couch one day within this year, probably around SummerSlam. Let's go from SummerSlam to the end of the year. COVID is done. Everything is fine. You're going to be sitting on the couch, and we're going to be pals. It's fine. It's going to be totally fine. I have 9 months to make this happen. It'll happen, dude. Listen, I'm not weird. I swear to you. I'm not like a weird guy. Normal dude. I like to eat my edibles every now and then. I like a couple drinks. I know you're sober, which is great. I won't drink in front of you. We'll keep this totally cool. Nothing, no hand action, nothing. Nothing has to happen like that. You're just going to come over and we're just going to chill. We'll order a pie. We'll talk about wrestling. Maybe we'll watch like Mid-Atlantic wrestling together. Some Mid-South. You know, we'll like tussle a little bit. You'll take your shirt off and I'll be like, all right. And I'll put on my mask and we'll like wrestle in my living room. My wife would be like, all right, guys, and we're making too much noise. Kids are going to wake up. That's it. That's all that's going to happen. Nothing crazy.
And then you rent a hotel room to keep so the kids don't wake up.
Yeah, and then we'll get a hotel room just as tussle. It'll be fine, man. It'll be okay.
I really want to see this happen. If anybody, honestly, you know what? Like we have a lot of interesting people that watch our show from week to week, from what I've gathered, and a lot of people who are we have low friends in high places apparently, and I feel like one of these people definitely could get you in touch with David Arquette and make it happen.
Oh yeah, somebody get in touch with David Arquette. Just let him know. Let him know I'm a cool dude. I'm okay. Nothing weird. Canadian Mountain Man, by the way, very upset at the no hand action. He's out of here, he said.
Zero hand action.
Listen, you don't know what it means. Maybe we're just like doing wrist exercises. I'm not going weird with this, you know?
What do you call it? The Turkish clubs? These guys.
The Turkish,
Guys
yeah,
just-
the Persian clubs. Well, my father
Yeah,
has
Persian clubs.
these. We'll do these together. We'll do this shit together. One of these. Hold on, we'll do
Good.
squats and do this.
Oh, so good. Where is this
Perfect.
going? Did you take an edible this morning?
No, I wish. I can't. Dude, I don't do any of that until like 7:00 at night.
And then you're just like everything's lined up, and then the kids are asleep, and
That's
you
it.
just have you ever snorted an edible?
Snorted and that? How would that even be possible? I would like to
Just
try
like-
that.
Like if you cut it like really thin, you know, like if you like when you cut the garlic razor thin so it melts in the pan.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
cut the edible razor thin and just snort it through your nostril.
Listen, maybe I don't know. Maybe one day we'll see. Listen,
Use the holes in your face to get that edible into your body.
So David, listen. Well, it's cool. Don't worry about it. It'll all work out. Let's talk about Bill Goldberg. A lot of news coming out. You can see WWE on the bump is kind of pushing Bill Goldberg and Roman Reigns to have a match.
Would you want to be friends with Bill Goldberg?
It wouldn't work out.
Okay.
We wouldn't have a lot in common. Like, what would I have in common with Bill?
Oh, I don't. I was gonna say you both like wrestling, but I don't know if I don't even know if he likes wrestling.
I don't. Yeah, like I don't.
You have kids. You guys got kids.
We do have kids. We'll talk about kids stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really into football.
He's a
Like,
car
I'm
guy.
not a big. I am a big car guy for sure. I can talk about cars. There you go. MG Geek said I'm a big car guy. I'm not. I like football. I'm not crazy about football. I love baseball. I don't think he loves baseball. Other than that, like we don't really. You know,
You used to play professional football.
I did. I did play professional football. Yeah, but different type of football. It wasn't the same type. You know, I don't know. You guys are both big into tribal. I have a really terrible tattoo on my back. I don't have a tribal tattoo.
Well, that says Andu.
Andu. So I mean, I don't really have a lot in common with him, so I don't want to hang out with him. But Goldberg and Roman is gonna happen. Now, here's where it gets very sticky, right? Here's why people are panicking. First of all, I don't know why Bill Goldberg gets like such a bad rep with this stuff. I don't I don't hate Andu. I'm just seeing it typed out. It's hysterical. Can I tell you, first of all, I just want to tell you guys, I've had a very rough week, okay? Very rough week. They're canceling indoor dining here in New York again next week. I got to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. They may cut my money. I may be unemployed for the first time ever. I mean, I'm not really unemployed, but I you know what I mean. I needed this show so bad. This made my day. This really did. So, do you want to see Bill Goldberg?
You can take the bullets out of the revolver now.
I did. I already did. I took it out right midway through the show. When I was talking about David Arquette, I'm like, okay, I feel better now. What do you think of Goldberg?
I think he seems like a nice guy. I think it's gonna be if it's a squat, if it's like a weird reverse squash match where it's Roman like really kicking the shit out of him, I'd be really into that. I'd be super into that.
By the way, submit your questions in the chat room. Q&A time. We're going to do our mailbag questions at the end of the show, so get them ready and keep them coming. Listen, I think it's going to happen. Whether it happens I don't think it's WrestleMania, okay? I'm just going to say that. So right now, the big what if is The Rock's schedule and his filming schedule, and if the film company is willing to take a blockbuster insurance policy out, right?
Right.
Because you guys have to remember what happened last time. He was filming Hercules, and he tore essentially his groin muscle off the bone. And you're going to say, okay, well, can't they? How long will that take? Can they work around it? They can't, because this guy has to keep his physique going. So it prevented filming for significant weeks. And I think it was like millions of dollars of cost. So a lot of people don't want to take this risk with him. However, if there was ever a moment, so that's one thing in the negative category. The other thing is, will they be in front of a live audience in April? They're going to be in Florida. So there is a chance of that, right? Because Florida, it's the Wild West. wide open.
Mm.
So, is it possible? Yes, very possible. From what I have heard, WWE is looking to go back to a normal travel schedule to some extent post WrestleMania. That first post WrestleMania show will be the first live audience back returning WWE product. Now, I don't know what that means for WrestleMania. To be in that giant building, you could have an audience. Do they want to use The Rock if they are not in front of a large, significant audience for this mega match? Is it better to hold off till the summer? What do you think? Do you think it's worth it for them to do this?
I think they definitely need The Rock in front of a live crowd because that would for sure drive sales through the roof, right?
Yeah,
And
like, okay, so how many people fit in that freaking building? 70,000
sure,
in Tampa, right? So let's say you go half. Let's say you go 30,000.
right.
Is that enough?
Yeah,
You know
I
what?
want to say I would love it if that was the case, but also, do you I want to kind of go back to something you said before. Do you think the torn groin is to blame for how terrible that Hercules movie is?
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. Listen, Bob has a great question, right? Can they cover the expenses of having The Rock without a full crowd? That's another thing. You got to remember, the gate
Sure.
will pay for this. He's not going to come cheap. There's a reason why Lesnar's not there. Because
Mhm.
generally, you try to offset the cost, especially for The Rock, because it's a one-off appearance, right? So this is very similar to how the Hogan deal worked in WCW. That first match with Flair, the buy rate of that pay-per-view paid Hogan's contract for the year.
How much do you think The Rock charges?
It would have to be significantly in a couple million, right? He's not doing it for $500,000. Like if I were to guess, I would say it has to be at least $3 million.
I'm gonna go more than that. I'm gonna say at least 6.
Well, I don't know if it's possible. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
how do you do that with this kind of market? You don't have an audience to sell your T-shirts, right? Leading
Mhm.
up to this, you can't sell The Rock T-shirts. You don't have a pay-per-view scale that's going to pay for this in one shot. Listen, that Mike Tyson
Right.
pay-per-view, and I've said this from day one, WWE made a huge mistake by taking the big four off a pay-per-view.
Agreed.
Huge mistake. And this is part of the reason why Barrios and Wilson are gone from WWE. This
Mhm.
is one of those reasons. Vince was not for taking his bread. I mean, you're talking about $79.95 at 1,000,000 buys.
Mhm.
You split that with the pay-per-view company, right? Split it with the pay-per-view. You made 35. It's about a $35 million payday for you
Right.
from one pay-per-view a year. So now it's gone. That source of revenue's gone. And by the way, pay-per-view model, not doing bad. That Tyson pay-per-view, it's
Mhm.
like 1.6 million buys for an exhibition.
Crazy.
Nate Robinson and Jake Paul and Tyson and Tyson and John Jones. I keep calling him John Jones. I don't know why.
Mhm. Roy Jones.
Roy
Jr.
Jones. Dude, it works.
I can't believe
Pay-per-view
Nate
still
Robinson
pay-per-view.
got so knocked out.
Did you see the question that they asked him? I forgot the girl's name, the woman's name on Vice. Asked him if he thinks it's racist in the current climate that he knocked out a black guy, and he got so pissed. He goes, "That's such a bullshit question."
Wow.
$58 million gross on the Tyson pay-per-view. Think about it that
Jeez.
way. Okay? Think about it that way. So, with that said, can they do The Rock in April? There's a lot of negatives here, right? I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Rock's emotional investment in this over a payday and contracts and all of that stuff. Because if you're looking at just by what's on paper, I would say The Rock won't do it, right? If we're looking on
Mhm.
paper with the pros and the cons, with,
Right.
the
I
current.
agree with that.
But because he's so emotionally involved and what a great send off moment for him,
Absolutely.
I think he's going to do it unless
Okay.
some big scenario comes out. So I'm still with listen, WWE's plan right now is a number of opponents here for him. One, it's The Rock, right? That's the big one. If The
Yeah.
Rock cannot work, we're looking at a couple of people here. Obviously, Bill Goldberg. I don't think it's going to be Bill Goldberg. I think WWE's not inept enough. Sometimes they are, but I don't think they're inept enough to put that match on at WrestleMania.
Right.
So there's only 3 other guys right now. You got Daniel
Oh,
Bryan, which I think that's a very big possibility.
great.
We got Drew McIntyre, which they've
Great.
teased numerous times. And I'm going to throw a curveball in.
John Cena.
No, you know what? I was not putting that in, but I would add that to the list also. But Big E.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
I feel like that's more for Rumble though.
I was told by a friend over there. You may know this friend.
Mhm.
That the plan in 2021 is that Big E becomes a world champion contender.
Awesome.
That is the plan. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, Q&A time. Rich is going to scroll up because he is the question master. And
baby.
he's going to scroll up and get your questions. Guys, submit them. Keep them coming, guys. We'll do like 15 minutes of this. Rapid fire.
If The Rock does face Roman, I think John Cena could take his place in the Jumanji franchise if they start calling it George-manji.
George
All right.
Monzi.
All right, question number 1 from the Grape Ayaz Akhtar.
The Grape.
How long do you think the FTW belt will continue to exist in AEW? From the Grape.
I think Taz just swallows it at one point. Like that's where he keeps it in his tum-tum. He just like a snake. He just puts the strap and just goes all the way down and just stays there in his belly. And then he takes it out.
It's delicious.
Listen, it's made out of leather. You eat cows. Do you remember when he got so mad at me and I just kept telling him, dude, it's okay. Let me take you to a steakhouse. We'll get over this over and over again until he blocked us.
I don't think it was him.
No. It was him.
Oh, wow.
Because he called the guy that designed the shirt and started yelling at him.
You suck my dick.
Why'd you make a shirt like mine?
So that was weird. That was a few years ago too.
Yeah.
I think the belt lasts for another year, but I think it has to change hands and they have to do a scramble to get the belt back on Team Taz. I think every member of Team Taz is going to get that belt.
Has it been defended?
No, it hasn't been defended. It's not acknowledged as an official title.
Yeah, but they should defend it at least.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's see, what do we got here? You know what? Another one from the Grape. Will the next WrestleMania be sponsored by the XFL and Terramina Tequila to get The Rock to take on Roman?
What was that? Will the next WrestleMania be sponsored by the XFL and the Tequila Company to get The Rock to take on Roman? You know what?
Good question.
Great question. I don't know how much synergy you're going to have between the XFL and WWE. For a number of reasons. One, I don't know how much the XFL wants that connection to exist. Quite bizarre that pro wrestling thing will never leave that company, right? This year was the beginning of the XFL. They were, dude, I got to tell you, it was decent football.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not this crazy hardcore football guy, but the fact that it was on at every bar in early February or mid-February, and people were watching it at these bars was interesting. The ratings were fine. They weren't doing terrible in the ratings. The football wasn't bad. The games were decent. They were getting their role. Them closing shop was a very Vince McMahon call. Listen, I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to guess why he did it, how he did it. I think it was an unfortunate scenario because we'd have a very different conversation about the XFL right now if COVID had not happened. But The Rock purchasing it gives it a very cool feel because I remember you said this right after the Super Bowl. You said, my God, if they could score The Rock to do these intros for the XFL, there's no stopping them.
Yeah.
And I really think he's going to play a big part in the overall presentation of the XFL. Listen, it's Vince's creation. And if you were to get rid of something like that, who better than, one of your top creations to kind of take that? A tremendous business guy. So,
absolutely.
It's quite possible there's some sort of tie in there with the XFL and WWE and WrestleMania. Listen, you know what? What if The Rock eventually purchases WWE?
I think he would need more money than he has. I feel like
No, he couldn't do it. Yeah, he couldn't do it.
Disney's the
But
only contender.
Disney, Fox, right? Disney or
Yeah.
Fox, I would say, if they were to sell it, because they're always everything's for sale always.
Mhm.
I never see WWE dropping it. I really don't. But if there was ever a chance, if there is an individual, I would say definitely The Rock would probably have a company that could buy it.
Mhm.
Put together a group. I don't know. I think that's a good question though. That brought us down a different rabbit hole, but good question.
Uh, Question from Mexican Pissed Head. The question is:
Great username.
Will the TNT Championship ever main event a pay-per-view?
Yes, guarantee you will.
The Sting versus Darby Allin match will for sure main event a pay-per-view.
Then I like that it's a TV title,
Yeah.
and I think that's cool that there's representation on TV for that title. I do think it should be defended every single episode.
Mhm.
I don't think that title should not be defended. I think that title should be defended every week on TNT. I think that's a little bit of a mistake that they make.
Okay, I'll agree with that. Scar Happy asks, "Is this the year of the comeback for Legends? Is it a possible mistake for future growth of the current roster?"
It depends. Do you remember we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, where I was told that 2021 will be the year that a lot of these guys come back to WWE to grow the viewership. I don't know to what extent is good or bad. I think if you use these guys moderately, it will work.
Mhm.
I think we need to get this idea out of our heads that the old guys take away time from the young guys. Let's get away from that, because we're not seeing that happen. We're not seeing, your world champion being Sting and your tag champions being 50-year-olds. We're not seeing that. I think if it works, it works. If people are watching and they're into it, they're watching and they're into it. So you need everything to kind of create this. The 90s were a weird era where you had so much talent that you didn't need to rely on these guys. But at the end of the day, we've seen this happen forever. The returns are a big part of this. I think Sting and AEW, if done properly, could work.
Yeah, 100%.
I just don't want to see him as a world champion,
Yeah, they don't seem like they're hurting to do that WWE thing where they're putting the pedigree on that belt. That Legends pedigree.
Well, that
on,
was
like, a new
Jericho.
title.
Jericho was the guy.
Yeah, Jericho and then Mox and then Kenny. It already has like a pretty fantastic lineage.
Yeah.
You don't need to add Sting to it as much as I think people do want that, but it's unrealistic in the current landscape of wrestling because you don't want to go even Steven,
Yeah.
Bachelor 3000 asks, as a kid or teen wrestling fan, it's a good question. As a kid or teen wrestling fan, who was the one wrestler you thought that you could kick their ass in real life?
Oh, you go first, Rich.
Probably Spike Dudley.
I was going to say Spike.
Yeah, but like I also feel like that's a stretch because I remember watching wrestling and being like, I don't think I could beat up any of these dudes. These
I got
guys
it for you.
fall on their heads for a living.
I got it for you.
Go ahead.
Harvey Whippleman.
Ooh, that's a good one.
When I was a kid, I honestly thought I could beat the piss out of Harvey Whippleman, like an 8-year-old me.
Mm-hmm.
Harvey
That's funny.
Whippleman's mine.
Bob Rowe, question in the chat: do they move WrestleMania to Dubai?
No, that WrestleMania's they barely ever want to do England because they feel that it's an American show. WrestleMania is an American show,
Okay.
but I don't know. Anything is possible right now. I'm curious about the Saudi shows and how they're going to run this, the Saudi thing. I don't think they're going to do. I would not imagine them back in Saudi Arabia till probably November of next year. And the reason why I say that is because it requires international travel, and the COVID vaccine, most likely what they're going to end up doing is for international travel, you're going to have to be vaccinated by that point. So I don't see it happening.
Okay. Let's see. What do we got here? Another one from the Grape. Do you think that even when people come back to shows, that WrestleMania stays at 2 days?
I don't want the WrestleMania 2-day thing, dude. I really don't.
Okay.
I don't like that Wrestle Kingdom is 2 days, and I don't think that WrestleMania needs to be 2 days. You're hurting it somewhere, right? And I get that you're so big you want everybody on the card, but you don't need everybody on the card. Listen, the best of the best ends up on WrestleMania. And if you're
Okay.
not in that top 10 match, you already have like 14 freaking matches.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's already like 10 matches. So you have the pre-show, do your 2 matches for the pre-show, and then do, have some quick matches in the beginning, and then you have your big payoffs. You got to go back to a basic structure. 7-hour WrestleManias, ridiculous. Go to 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh, 4 hours, perfect.
4.5, 5 hours. Do 5 hours, dude. Do a 5-hour
1 hour
WrestleMania.
pre-show. Yeah.
1 hour pre-show. Start at 6. Start at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Nope, 12. I don't want it to go beyond 11 o'clock. See, that's the problem.
100%.
That's the problem. And I keep saying
Yeah.
this. Like right now, in this age today, does WrestleMania need to go on after 11 o'clock? Can't the pay-per-view start at 4 in the afternoon on a Sunday for WrestleMania? Why can't we do that?
So ideal, right? So ideal.
Then make it as long as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Start the show at 4.
It ended at 10.
And ended at 10. Yeah. Perfect.
Crown Wolf, does Sting and Darby become a tag team?
I don't want to see it.
I think what's going to happen is Darby will get repeatedly saved by Sting. They have a weird confrontation, but then they end up tagging for one match on a pay-per-view down the line. And then Sting doesn't really do much. Sting does a fucking coffin drop on somebody.
I don't want to see it.
Okay.
I don't want to see Sting in a tag with Darby. I think the face paint is the only thing that's similar, and they're both creepy. Sting's not even creepy. He was never. I don't know.
All right. MG Geek asks, MG Geek asks, Mr. Gonzo, are we getting that Super Show by the end of 2022?
Which Super Show would this be? Saudi?
Probably.
What Super Show are we talking about?
I would say like they do, because they're backed up with the Saudi stuff. Like they need to make good on those dates at some point, right?
Yeah, I'm curious I don't know what he means by Super Show.
He put it in quotation marks. I think maybe he was trying to tell you something.
Super Show.
Yeah. Super Show.
Let's see. I don't know. I'll get back to him when he responds.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
What, if any, what other legend or available wrestler would be the icing on the cake for AEW?
Say that again.
What legend or available wrestler would be the icing on the cake for AEW?
The icing on the cake for AEW, like the thing that'll boost them big time.
Yeah,
not a one-off pop. You're saying a big get, right? You're talking about a big acquisitional get,
a big, a decent get. Yeah.
Oh, it has to be someone like
Enzo Amore.
Jonathan in our chat room. Enzo. I gotta mod him. There you go. It would have to be a big name, right? So you're talking about, dude, it's John Cena, CM Punk, or Roman Reigns, right? That would be it. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar would be a big get.
Punk, I feel like people are still clamoring for the guy. He did say this past week on Renee Paquette's podcast that it would be more interesting for him to wrestle in AEW because he hasn't wrestled most of their roster.
I don't think he's wrestled most of them at all. Other than Cody, right? Cody, Rusev.
Moxley, and Jericho.
Yeah. Listen, he has such a bad attitude. And I think he rubs... listen, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of it is a gimmick, right? Because you're not this successful in what you do if you're that terrible of a person. It doesn't happen. I think a lot of it is a gimmick. I think a lot of it get mixed into his personality that he puts out there. It really comes down to a couple things. One, does he want to wrestle? I think the answer is yes. I don't... When you are someone like him that had to work so freaking hard to get to where you were, right? To become the man, when everything was thrown at you in the kitchen sink to prevent that from happening, you don't want it to go away. And the way he ended his career was just so abrupt and not, it wasn't done the way it should have been. It was done under his control. But I think the story would have been a lot different if he went into UFC and he won that first fight or he won the second fight and now it's a different person. But it didn't
Okay.
happen. I think for his legacy in wrestling, we're gonna see him come back. It's gonna happen. Honestly, I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be WWE. I don't think it's gonna be AEW.
That's interesting. On that interview, I do believe he also said if AEW was part of the landscape when he left, WWE would have gone through hell and high water to make him stay. They probably would have offered him the moon, because that's what
Well,
they did with the current roster,
yeah, but
right?
he didn't give them an opportunity, and that's the thing.
Mhm.
When he left, they tried to make it work for him. The story that's put out, like
Mhm.
his version of the story that he said on Cole Cabana's show, which is always a very interesting thing that he did because he released it on Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Uh, that is a one-sided account, but with a lot of
Yeah.
fact, and by his own fact, by what he said, he didn't let Vince give him a counter. He didn't let Hunter give him a counter. He didn't want to negotiate at all. He was done.
Right.
So I don't think it's not going to be. It's not going to be listen. His big story is WWE.
Okay. Fascinating. Do you want to end it there?
Well, here's the thing. Daniel says AEW
Okay.
needs to find their own identity
Mhm.
and stop trading on WWE swipes and people WWE lets go. So here's the deal. If there are only two freaking companies that do
Mhm.
a job, you're going to hire people from that other company.
Right.
So this whole stigma that there's WWE guys, what, these guys can't, where are they supposed to work? Right? Like
Right.
everybody's like you're talking WWE's the biggest one with the
Mhm.
largest roster with the biggest funds. So everybody's a WWE. I mean, these guys are all WWE guys. Your pool,
Right.
if you're going to say to yourself, you know what? We're not going to hire any WWE guys. You know who you're working with? Guys that are not going to draw a dime.
Exactly.
Kenny Omega's is an anomaly.
Mhm.
Um, the Young Bucks anomaly.
Yeah.
Everybody else has been there, done that. They've been in WWE. So you really this whole idea that AEW's hiring WWE guys, you gotta hire them. They're the only ones that exist. You're not gonna go to Impact and say, you know what? You know who's gonna make a great world champion is gonna create ratings for us? It's Rich Swann. Rich Swann
Right.
is gonna be the guy for. By the way, Rich Swann, WWE guy,
Yeah.
right? Here it is. Where do you want them to be hired from? If
Mhm.
you're saying you're not going to hire WWE guys, where are you hiring? Who are you hiring? This is the business. And isn't it messed up to the boys, to these wrestlers, that you're going to say, "Oh, so
Mhm.
sorry, man. Yeah, you worked at that company. We don't want to work with you."
Yeah, it's bizarre. Oh, by the way, this just in, Kenny's defending his title at Triple Mania on Saturday.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Yes, he is. See, like this guy Daniel in the chat, he has a real hard on for AEW.
For you.
For me, but
Yeah.
for AEW, and he can't get past the bias, and he
Mhm.
can't see that it's a business at the end of the day, and you gotta hire you hire what's available. You hire what you think is going to be working well. If you start working with the whole, we won't work with these guys because they worked at that company. We want to be
Right.
so different that we don't want to work with them. You're not left with anybody anymore. And now you're creating an even worse environment for the wrestlers because you're going to tell a guy that worked his ass off and he's a really good worker that I'm so sorry, I'm not going to hire you because you worked for Vince. And I
Mhm.
don't want to be perceived as somebody that hires WWE talent. It doesn't work like that. Everybody works everywhere. Work in
Right.
Impact, work in MLW, work in TNA, in Japan. Who cares where you worked? As long as you're doing something different and you're not
Mhm.
presenting the product in the same manner, you're doing something cool at the end
Well,
of the day.
it's also the fact that like a lot of these guys, it's the island of misfit toys in the regard that like, you know what, maybe we can use you to your full potential. I think Miro is a good example of a slow burn, where like he is so conditioned by that WWE system that they're slowly breaking him out of his shell.
Yeah.
And they're giving him time to shine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that brawl last night was a good example of that. Plus, I'm a firm believer in having guys who have experience production wise in
Yeah.
terms of camera placement and facials. That's a benefit to
Of
your young
course.
roster, your AW roster. A lot of these guys have never been on TV. And you always hear these interviews where it's like, oh, I've never been on TV before, but all of a sudden, like I'm on TV. And we're getting used to that. Like we're seeing most of that original roster still on TV and continuing. Like they're not falling by the wayside.
And I think a lot of people forget how wrestling worked, right? Like
Mhm.
you're looking at the AEW roster, right? You got Jake Roberts there, you got DDP involved, you got Jericho, you got
Mhm.
Dustin, you got Sting there now. I mean, there's a plethora of older talent that's out of their prime that's on that roster. Why do you think that
Right.
is, right? A,
Mhm.
name recognition, fine. But two, it's to work with the talent. Back then, you're going back to the 90s. Who was driving around with these guys? You had Georgie
Right,
Animal
right.
Steel. You had Wahoo. I think Wahoo was there at that point in
Mhm.
the office. You had all these guys as agents that would get in the
Gorilla
car with
Monsoon.
them. Monsoon, that would drive with them, coach them, teach them.
Mhm.
You don't pick up on the product. You don't pick up on wrestling unless you're working with these guys.
Mhm.
And the reality is, if you just have a roster of just 20-year-olds that are brand new without the guidance and the coaching, you're not going to be able to create a very deep character for them. Jake
Mhm.
Roberts has been a tremendous asset to Lance Archer. Huge asset. DDP
Absolutely.
has been a huge asset to AEW because guess what? It's his production company putting these video clips together and telling the story for them. Sting is going to be a tremendous asset to explain to these guys like a
Mhm.
Darby Allin on how to get over with his gimmick. That you need coaching. You need training. WWE's current model is a little different. WWE's model is you go to NXT. We don't care if you're a wrestler. We really don't want you to be a wrestler. We want athletes, and we want to create the product. We want to create you.
We want to create what you like and what you don't like. And, like
Yeah.
now that they have the Thunderdome, that's exactly what they're doing. Corey Richmond in the chat room had a good point. NXT already rated the best of the PWG locker. Only thing left to hire is WWE
That's
cast-offs.
it. Yeah. Listen, ROH. WWE took ROH. They took PWG. So who else are you going to hire? What are you going to do when Ricochet's a free agent now? You're going to tell him that I can't hire you? So sorry.
Right.
You're a WWE guy. I can't put you on my TV because people are going to think that I'm just hiring WWE guys. You can't do that. It's not fair to the wrestlers. I hate that take because where do you want these guys to work? Where can they work? If you're telling me that they shouldn't be hired for this company, where would you like them to work? What
Into
company?
oblivion.
Fade away? Yeah, because sorry, you had your chance in WWE. You can't work anymore here. I don't get that. Listen, who cares about the owners? Who cares about the company? Give a shit about the wrestlers.
Right.
And who's going to pay them? ROH is not going to pay Ricochet $250,000 to $500,000 a year.
Oh, forget it. Yeah. Deep pockets, dude. Deep pockets.
Yeah.
The AW model is very interesting. And
Listen, it's still new.
Yeah, absolutely.
They still new. Listen, these guys are working their ass. It's a very dangerous job. We take it for granted as fans. When you see them wrestle, we take it totally for granted that these guys are able to do what they do. Do it one time. I've done it. Do it a couple times. It is painful. It is not an easy gig. They're wrestling 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a match, 15 minutes a match, 20 minutes. You're going to say, well, it's 20 minutes. They know what they're doing. It is a very dangerous career that it could end tomorrow. So who am I to tell them don't make money?
Right. Plus, weren't you originally supposed to be the third Nasty Boy?
I was the fourth Nasty Boy. I was the fourth Nasty Boy.
What was your Nasty Boy name?
Grime.
Sludge.
I was Nasty Boy Sludge.
Sludge.
What a gross gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
What a gross gimmick. So listen, guys, at the end of the day, it's right. Like what you like. Don't like what you don't like. Don't harp on the things that you don't like. Look at the positive in wrestling. You know what I mean? Look at the positive. And also, here's the other thing. AEW is a brand new company, 1 year old. Who the hell knows if they're going to be great?
Right.
We don't know. I keep telling people are like, oh, AEW is the best. I'm like, first of all, AEW is doing a very good job with what they have. They're doing a better job than most expected them to do. So, but it's also 1 year. WWE is a business of 50-something years.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot compare the two products. It's not comparable. WWE presents the product in a very different manner. They're making a killing. They're doing so well. You cannot compare a company that's 1 year old doing different stuff because guess what? It's going to get old. AEW is going to get, After
Yeah,
2-3 years, you're going to say, oh, wow, look, they're going back to the same well. Happens. That's wrestling. Anyway.
Plus, it's the fickle nature of wrestling fans, because we consume our entertainment so differently now. You know, like if you were watching in the 80s, there's no podcast, chat rooms, or forums to voice your opinion, to complain about what you're watching. You're just, like, let's say you were like an adult watching NWA, and then you go to work and that's it. And then you're like, oh, maybe next week, I can't wait for the other thing to happen.
Listen, do you remember when TNA started? How everybody loved it. It was so good. It was so different. Those penny pay-per-views. Everybody, oh my God, TNA. You gotta watch TNA. You gotta watch TNA.
Yeah.
You watched it and you said, my God, you know what? This is pretty cool. They got different guys. These guys are hardworking. And then the wheels fucking came off after a little bit. I mean, the wheels were always off, right? It always had that.
Right.
The problem with Impact was it had that 2000, 2001 WCW stink all over it from day one. So no matter how good it was, to certain people, it was bad. It was never going to work. But, they were on a tremendous roll of one period. That Kurt Angle, when Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe were facing off against each other, I feel like that was their pivotal moment to do something different.
He was such a get for them.
He was a huge get for them. Huge. But the reality is, listen, the people in charge there were not the best. Management was not, the talent was great. Management sucked. The creative was a mess. Their product, this was a show on Spike TV on a major network. And they were doing 1.4 million people a week, and people said that was bad. I mean, for the time, WWE was doing way better, but the wheels came off that thing quickly. Who's to say that's going to happen to AEW? We got to wait and see. We don't know.
Yeah.
With that said, time to wrap it up. Rich, thank you. You're the best. I love you.
You are.
Yeah, I love you. You're the best. I'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next week on another Mat Men. We'll be around this week on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Mat Men Podcast. You could follow us here on YouTube. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. YouTube.com/Mat Men Podcast. We're everywhere podcasts are available. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Peace.